Happy New Year, everyone. It
Happy New
is
Year.
January 2023. Hard to believe we're starting a brand new year and lots of great opportunities to craft together. So thank you, Julia, for partnering with me. My name is Missy Shipman with Gladheart Studio, and I love partnering with the Baldwinsville Public Library every month to bring you a card making class virtually. So whether you're joining us on Zoom tonight or streaming live with Facebook or catching the replay on Facebook or YouTube, we thank you for taking part. There are kits, goodie boxes like this still at the library this month, available for you to pick up. We ask for a voluntary $5 donation to help offset the cost. And this month has some fun surprises in it. So I'm going to show you what's in the box are my completed projects, and then we'll go through and create them together, the 3 projects tonight. So it got a pretty ribbon. I was kind of thinking Valentine's Day, even though it's only January, February sneaks up quickly. And our meeting in February, I think, might be like on the 9th. So it's time enough to make a Valentine. But the projects tonight, you may want to save for that special day too. So the ribbon is here. And I used an inside out paper pumpkin box. And these are wonderful size for mailing a care package to someone at college or to a faraway relative or friend. Or they could be a Valentine box. When you were growing up in your classroom, did you make a special Valentine box for people when you had your swaps Valentine exchange at school? Or it could be a place for you to keep the cards that we make each month so that you have them handy when you need a birthday card or a thank you card, you have a place for it. So let's look inside. There are 3 projects tonight. One is a fun stand-up card. And this features the Adorable Owls stamp set, which is available during January and February from Stampin' Up! As part of our celebration promotion. I just love how fun and easy and simple they are to color. So we're going to do some watercoloring tonight, and I'll show you the simple assembly for that pop-up card. And I also have a little love treat box. And this is a little sneak peek of a kit that's available for our in-person class tomorrow. I'm changing it up a little bit to make it look different than how it's designed in the kit, which is a little more, mine's a little more whimsical with some watercolor on there. But as it's designed, it's lovely for a favor, for a wedding or a baby shower, or as a love you, thank you, or favor. And then our 3rd project is a Valentine card, which you can dress up for Valentine's Day or make it an anniversary card or just a friend thinking of you card. So Valentine's Day isn't just for significant others, it's for our friends and our family as an opportunity to spread the love. And especially during this dark time of the year, I think it's great to have colorful and bright projects that we're sharing. So in your box, you also received a water pen. And if you have not yet done so, you'll want to add some water to the barrel. So you can unscrew the top and put some water in here. You don't want to fill all the way to the top. Mine's about halfway, and I've been doing a lot of watercoloring. So, but you'll want to put some water in there, and then you can screw that top back on. These are great. You can also put ink in them and then paint with that particular color ink. But I'm going to show you some fun ways to just use water and watercoloring tools to add the color. So let's start with my favorite one. Often I save my favorite project for last, but tonight I want to dive right in to this Adorable Owls card. So I'll set the other things away. And what you'll want to find in your kit is a white envelope with some colorful papers inside. Yours might be this coral color, really pretty corally orange color with stars and plaid, or it may be this this plaid with blues and greens. Okay, and then the one I'm working on tonight also is from that same paper pack, and it's got the granny apple green and a little bit of purple. So before we dive into the coloring, I want to share with you the dimensions for this card. And you can take a screenshot, or because this is a video, you'll be able to go back and replay to catch these dimensions if it's something that you would like to recreate. Now this card, I must apologize, in your kit that you have from the library, the dimensions are a little bit smaller than I have correct on my chart here. So I didn't realize this until after I was working more on my samples, but you'll notice here in this card that the distance here on this level is a little shorter than the distance here, which makes the card kind of fall forward slightly. It doesn't offend me in any way, and it will still stand up nicely, but I've adjusted the membership, the numbers, the measurements to be correct so that they're equal here. It's an inch, instead of an inch, it should be 1.25 inches. So if you're interested in recreating the project, you want to use the dimensions that are here. But as I said, in your kit, the card will still be lovely. I'd give you $100 if your recipient made any negative commentary about that. I did make a correction and want to draw your attention to that. Okay. What's so fun about this fun fold is that it will fold to fit in a regular size envelope. And one of my favorite team members and friends, her name is Nora. She loves fun folds and she's an expert at them. And one of her rules for creating a fun fold is to require that it fold up and fit inside a regular envelope so that it's really easy to mail. Okay, so that's the case with these dimensions. Now we're using vellum tonight, which is a more delicate paper, and it's translucent. It's not transparent. It still has like a glassine kind of look. I just thought it was gentle, and it's a little more lightweight than the other paper. And we're using some watercolor paper tonight, which is heavier. So I thought the lighter vellum would kind of offset the texture, the deeper, heavier texture of the watercolor paper. Okay. All right, so those are the dimensions, and let's take a look now. We're going to go ahead and do our watercoloring first, and then we'll put the pieces all together. So in your kit, you have 2 pieces of watercolor paper, so you can play. I'm just going to work with one tonight, and you'll only need one for this card. But as you're learning, if you haven't watercolored before, as you're learning something new, it's fun to have a chance to play and experiment. So it's only paper, and you can't really go wrong with this. When we're using watercolors, water-based coloring tools, we want to use the ink pad called StazOn. This is a solvent ink or an alcohol-based ink, not for toddlers, but school-age kids with supervision could easily use StazOn ink. And because it's alcohol-based, the water won't bleed. If I used my favorite Memento ink pad, which is water-based, then the water from the water pen or from the water-based inks could bleed that black. So when you're working with watercolors, you want to use the StazOn ink. And I'm stamping an image from the Adorable Owls. Put that over here so you can see what we're doing there. And this one is a little owl in flight. So I'm going to put that, she's like flying. There, I'm going to push really hard. The watercolor paper is more porous, and so it has some texture here, and you need to just give a lot of pressure to have a clean impression. Then we'll add some words. It says, my friend. So this is a nice card just for any time of year. It could be a fun Valentine, but it could also be just a thinking of you or miss you kind of card. There, we'll set that ink away. And now I'm going to show you a couple different strategies for coloring. I have another one ready here too to play with. And let's go ahead. I've got these are watercolor pencils. Now, not all colored pencils are designed to work and bleed like this and blend with water. So you have to look for a tool that are called watercolor pencils. These are available from Stampin' Up, and you can find watercolor pencils in lots of places. That's one medium we're going to play with. Another are markers, water-based markers. And these are from Stampin' Up, but again, if you have like a Crayola brand, can't be a Sharpie, okay? It has to be water-based, not alcohol-based. But one trick is to just scribble some of the color to make a palette. I'm just going to scribble some onto my clear block. Or you could use like the lid of something. Here's a little lid I was using earlier with some brown ink scribbled in there. So I can just scribble some of that color on there, can scribble some blue. just going to make a palette of color. It's nice and squeaky sounds. And you see that that's got some color on the clear block. You can also take an ink pad, and I'm going to open this one here and just stamp it. Stamp some of it right onto a clear block. And now I've got a palette with some purple. And then I'll color the brown with my colored pencil so you can see a variety of things. So let's start here with a little bit of brown colored pencil. Now, one trick when you're using watercolor, when you're watercoloring, is to lay down some water on the back. And this will help the paper not curl too much. You know how if you do a watercolor wash on something and it's very wet, you can see now the paper is going to start to curl a little bit it's kind of rounded. So if I do that on the back, then when I work on the front, it will kind of counteract that that curve that happens because the water is changing the dynamic of the paper. So let's take a little brown colored pencil. I'm just going to kind of scribble it in. I don't want it to be very solid colored. I want it to be pretty scribbly. So and what's fun about watercoloring, one of the things that's fun about watercoloring is that you don't have to stay in the lines. Watercoloring actually looks better when we go out of the line a little bit. I'm just trying to figure out a way to lift my work so it's a little closer to the camera. Let me try something here.
Missy, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I had a question for you. You said that you coated one side with water before doing watercolor painting or drawing on the other side. Is that right?
Right. So this was just laying down color so that now, so it started to curl. Now when I do coloring on the right side of it, the top side of it, it's going to curl kind of back again.
So it'll flatten it out. Okay.
It'll flatten it out. Yep. Okay. So something fun with watercoloring too is you can always go back and add more to it. So you want to start with light color and then you can add more. So I'm just going to kind of wiggle over those light scribble lines that I made with the colored pencil. And you see, I'm just kind of scribble. It's okay if it goes out of the line a little bit. That's, in kindergarten, we were taught to kind of stay in the lines, but it's really a lot more fun to let things kind of be more organic. So, and then I can go back and add more in certain areas if I want to highlight different places. And wiggle it. So as you're playing along with me or watching and planning how you might use your resources, think about what ink you have, whether you have colored pencils available or markers or ink pads that you could use. And we're going to use the water pen again next month. So you'll want to keep that handy with your supplies. And what I'll do next month is create for you a little template. This is kind of like when I was little, I would have these coloring books that had the template, the palette of color that you would then just use a paintbrush, pick up the color and color it onto your design. So that's how I'm going to color the other part of my owl now, because my colored pencils, I just scribbled a little bit here to make a palette. In between your coloring, you want to just wipe your water pen on scrap paper. And that way, if there's any color, like the brown, it's going to come off on my scrap paper. So now I can pick up some coral and some orange and make the little beak for the owl. So I'm just picking it up from my color palette, just like when I was little, I loved doing that. And I'm going to add that same mix of color to the feet. So I have some coral and some orange. All right. And then let's see what we want to do. We want to give her some eyes. Let's give her some blue eyes. So I'm going to pick up some of the blue colored pencil and paint that on her eyes. Now, I'd like there to be some color on her cheeks as well, a little bit of pink, but I don't want to overdo it. So I'm just going to pick up a little color again from the colored pencil and kind of make the cheeks some bold colors there on her cheeks. And then I can mute that by adding another color. So you saw how I did on my palette here. I scribbled some of these colors. I'm going to scribble some of this light brown. It's going to be a little hard to see on camera. It's called Sahara Sand, and it's a very light gray-brown color. And that's what I'm going to pick up to color around the face and eyes here. So there's a little bit of a contrast. It's almost a little bit of a green tone. And I'm going to scribble that around here. Okay. So again, you can add more color as you wish. And what I'm going to do now is give a wash to the background of my owl. So let me show you on my samples here. I colored my owl, and then I just painted around it to create kind of a frame of color. So I'd like to do that with this owl. And because she's flying, I'm going to have the top be more blue and then the bottom kind of ground with a green. Okay, so let's take some blue. And when you do a watercolor wash, you want your brush to be pretty wet. So I go ahead and squeeze it to get out some more water, and then I can scribble around. Now, another tip is to take your colored pencil and go just around like you're shading as the way the light would be a shadow. So I'm just putting some blue kind of below and on to the one side. So it's going to create a little bit of a shadow here. And that when I pull it around with the watercolor pen, it's going to dilute that color. And I can pick up some more of my blue. Let's see where I hid the blue ink. Here, oh, let's see. Here's one. Oh, I know, I used the marker for that, didn't I? I scribbled with the marker on here to get some blue. So let's do that some more. And maybe also some of this little bit deeper blue. I can get a stronger concentration of the ink with the ink pad. And then I can go in with a very wet brush and move it around.
Is there anything you can use if you don't have those clear blocks?
The blocks, yes. What I recommend if you don't have a clear box to make a palette is either a Tupperware lid, or this is a lid from our embellishment containers. Anything with a smooth plastic surface will work. So the key is to have enough water, but not too much water. It's really kind of, it's an art and a science, right? And you have to just kind of go at it like you would if you were tie-dyeing. When you tie-dye something, it's rare for people to get real precision. Now, some people have made can do that with tie-dye, but if you just imagine at summer camp doing tie-dye, you dip it in and you get what you get. So when you're watercoloring, especially if you're newer to it, there's going to be a lot of variation. And that appeals to me. I think it's meant to be very fluid and very free form. So, and if you get an area that's too heavy, that you put too much ink, often you can go back and just get your brush just wet and go back and move that color around, almost pick up the color and move it to somewhere else. I hope that makes sense. So I have kind of a background of the blues, and I want to have a little bit of green. So let me take my green ink pad.
Now it looks like the eyes of the owl they're kind of alive. Is that just the way it's printed, or is that because of some coloring that you did?
Well, I did the stamp itself is very well designed because it shows the white of the eye. Do you know when you're doing any coloring of or painting, or if you look at a human's eye, the way a photograph would be, there's often the iris that's colored, but then that little white dot, right?
It's the gleam. Okay.
Yeah, the sparkle of the eye. And so the artist has designed these owls so that that little white part you don't color in, you color the iris around it. And then of course the dark pupil in the center. So it does make it have a real sparkle to it. You're
I'm
right.
gonna remember that next time I'm drawing eyes.
Yes, leave a little bit that's white. That's a really good thing to point out. Now, if you have ink pads like this, you can also, some of them I find are stiffer and I can't do this trick, but you can squeeze the lid down. And so what that does is create a little pool of ink inside your ink pad. Now I have some green and I can kind of ground my friend words with this really happy green color. Okay. So again, you just experiment, have fun. My friend Deb Meek does a lot of creative watercoloring, and she keeps a box of the kind of rejects, the things that like, oh, it didn't come out quite like I expected, or maybe the colors bleed together in a way that doesn't appeal to you. And then she keeps them in a box. And so then when she's working on a project and she needs a little flower or a little leaf or just a strip of color of some kind, she can punch that from the piece. And there's always a way to kind of save it, if that makes sense. So in this case, also, we have the other side. If we were really unhappy with the way this came out, watercolor paper is a nice thick paper and it gives you a whole nother opportunity on the back. But if you were didn't like the way the colors bled or it got too deep or dark, set it aside for a little way. Don't put it right in your recycling, because often you will return to it when you need just a small element to add, and then you can punch or cut it. So some people might not like the way this pink is kind of uneven here, but I actually like it. I think it's sort of a, it's just a muted blush to the owl. So again, I wasn't trying to go for a hard line. I just wanted to have it be fluid. So I'm quite pleased with this one. Does anybody have any questions about the different tricks or how to create a palette? You could use a clear box like this. You could use a Tupperware lid. You can scribble with markers, water-based markers. You can use ink pads or ink spots like these. This is the little a little red one. You could push that onto a surface and create a little palette. And then that other trick that I'll have for you for next month is where you actually create this little color by number kind of palette. It doesn't stretch too far. They're just little splotches of color, but it's enough to add small details to your projects.
Right. I was a little distracted at the beginning. So you gave us these pens and we put a little water in the pens. Is that
yes. So, yep. So you're going to unscrew the barrel. Okay. That has the black feature in here that connects to the brush. And this is where you put the water in.
And how much water do you put?
And you don't want to fill it all the way up. I like to fill it just below that part where it says push. And that way I can give gentle pressure to it without it flooding.
Okay.
I would caution people, you wouldn't want to squeeze it right on your project like this, for example. You'd want to squeeze it off on a lid or a scrap paper, a paper towel or something. Or lots of times I'll use the back of my palm to kind of see how wet it is, because I don't want it to flood the project. Right. Okay. Now, if I'm doing something like this isn't for our project tonight, but just for a little more learning about a watercolor wash. If I want to use a number of colors, like to create a sunset here, then I want my paper to be pretty wet. So I'm going to first wet the back of it. I'm going to squeeze and let it get pretty wet. Okay. Because this will keep it from curling up too much. And now on this side, I'm going to take some of these sunset colors or sunrise colors, depending on the way the seasons are, and I'm just boldly making strokes. I know my camera's a little far away here, but this is just boldly painting. And then I'm going to take this next color, it's called Crushed Curry. It's a little bit deeper yellow. And you'll see here, I'm actually picking it directly from the ink pad. So again, you wouldn't want to do that repeatedly, because it can damage your ink pad, but it doesn't, it's not a worry. And that actually wasn't a very much of a contrast between those two yellows. But this next orangey color is going to give more definition, okay? So I'm just making very bold strokes here. And this is a great way to create a background after it dries for you to stamp like a silhouette on it, or write a favorite verse. If you have, again, you would use like a Sharpie marker because you don't want the ink to bleed. So if I used a water-based marker, it would make a big mess. But if I let this dry and then write with a Sharpie, write a favorite verse or a monogram, it creates a lot of cool texture. What's fun about the watercolor paper is it does have this sort of grain in it and thickness to it, which really welcomes the moisture. It welcomes the movement of the ink.
So you definitely let it dry before you use the marker on it.
Yes, you want to let that dry. I'm impatient. It's hard sometimes to wait. You can kind of, what would that word be? Like daub it off. There's a word for that. Or you can use a heat tool or a hair dryer or something, but it's best just to sort of say, oh, that's pretty, but then work on something else and then let it really dry and then come back to that. So I could, for example, let this dry and then just stamp the owl on it and not color the owl, but just have the owl in front as kind of a silhouette. So we'll do some more watercoloring stuff next month as well. So keep your water pen handy. If you don't have a water pen, then you can use a paintbrush or even a Q-tip. It won't give you the precision that the water pen will, but it's a lot of fun. So yes, Julie says, I like pressing the ink pads. Yes, to get the ink gets on the lid and it makes a nice palette for you. All right, so now we have the fun of putting the card together, this fun fold. So let me clear away some of the ink and I can find the supplies for us. All right, now I've scored these papers for you, so you'll want to have a scoring tool like the bone folder or a spoon. You can use your thumb as well, but the back of a spoon or a bone folder will help you get the best kind of crease. We're using two unique papers tonight. One is the vellum that I mentioned before, and the other is our thick basic white cardstock. And this is called thick cardstock because it's a heavier weight paper than our standard paper. And using the tool really helps you get the crisp edge. So you want to find that long white piece. And there are 4 lines we're going to score. I've already scored, but we're going to crease on those lines and then use the bone folder or the back of a spoon. Or like I said, you can use your finger or thumb, but you want it to be strong pressure.
Do you fold them towards the indent or away from the indent? Okay,
that's a great question. So my friend Meg has a great way to remember this. She says, hide the pimple, show the dimple. So the part that's sticking out is like the pimple. We're going to hide that. We're going to fold it in. And then the part that's the dimple is the outside. So hopefully that helps. It's basically the indented part is going to be from the outside. And it won't dramatically make a difference on this project, which way, because they're all folding in to make this tunnel. This will look similar to one of the fun folds we did back in November. And we don't want to do any gluing yet, but we're scoring this piece, okay? And then we're going to score, while we have our tool, we'll go ahead and score the vellum piece. Now this one, again, the part that's going to be on the top is the part that's going in a little bit. And this paper is kind of fragile, so take your time. I can't score it with my scoring blade too harsh or it will tear. So it's a little bit trickier to find that fold tonight as you're working with it. But there are 2 lines. And you want to do your best to make them straight. knowing that I'm a human, and so as I cut things and score things, it's not always with exact precision, but you're making this little, it looks like something you'd put over a door to go over your door. That's the part of the card that connects at the top here. Okay, so next we're going to take our designer series papers. And again, you have the blue ones or the coral ones or the green ones, and they're double-sided. So you get to pick, how do you want your piece to be? The one that's going to show the most is the one in the back. But the one that kind of stands out, pops out, is the smaller piece in the front. So both get a chance to be on show here. You get to decide which one where you'd like them to be. We'll take our adhesive. I'm using the Tombow glue tonight. You can use a similar glue or a tape runner. You have Seal or Seal Plus. And we're going to smooth that here. And then the other piece is going to go on that front panel. It's sized so that there'll be a nice little white frame around the outside there. There, so we have the tall back and then the short front. Now, if you're working along with me, watch first as I do the assembly of this next part, because we want to make sure you put your glue in the right place. We're going to put glue just along this 1/2 inch white blank part here. Okay, just a little bit of glue. And then we want to fold that so that it's folded back here. And then when we push it onto the, oops, sorry, I didn't see, I have to be careful because I'm going to do it. No, that's correct. So where your paper is, that's like the bottom right now. And then the glue that's folded, piece that's folded over, we're going to press against the other piece. The other piece of designer series paper, and we have to hold that in place so that it has a chance to set. That glue has to kind of grab it, and you'll see it's in the correct placement because now it's making that easel. Okay, so we put glue along the little strip. Let's see, I have another one right here. The glue goes along that thin edge, the 1/2 inch piece, and then folds up and hold that in place so that it can set. The next piece, now we're going to fold the box up so that there's white showing at the bottom. Just like we put glue only on that 1/2 inch strip of the white, we're going to do the same on the vellum and just put glue on the vellum edge there. One, you have to fold it. I have to make sure I'm doing it the right way for you. Yep. So thanks for bearing with me for a second here. Okay, this time we're going to fold the crease, the second crease. So we put glue below the other line. Now we've got at the score line here. I'm going to show you alongside this one so you can see what I'm doing. This edge lines up at the top of the designer series paper. So this edge here, that's an inch that doesn't have any glue on it, that's going to line up at the top of the designer series paper. And so the only part that has glue is underneath here. Sorry, that's awkward to explain. And what we're doing, remember, is we're making it so that it can expand. So the vellum was just that second score line. We line up at the top and then hold. And then to have that secure at the bottom now, we're going to put a small amount of glue underneath the vellum. Now you'll notice a lot of the trick with using vellum is that glue often shows through, right? And so we know we have our watercolor piece that's going to layer on top. So if I put glue under here where the watercolor piece will be, it won't show. All right, so now we have the two boxes. And the trick to doing the vellum gluing is just remembering that your second score line is at the top of the designer series paper. That will keep things all in the size of a standard envelope. Okay, so you can see what we need to do now to finish the card is simply add that panel to the front. And I'm going to do that with some glue. If your panel, depending on how well you were able to keep it flat, you might need to wet the back again to kind of make it so it's not warped, or put a book on top of it for a while to let the heaviness, the weight, push it down. And then we have another card. So I have 3 in my series here, and they're all quite lovely, showcasing the owls in this really pretty paper. If you ever have questions as you're watching the video, and especially when there's a fun fold like this that's a little bit tricky, please ask me to help you. I can, respond to you with word directions. It's often easier to show people, but this is a little bit tricky to demonstrate on camera. So I'm happy to answer questions that you have. If you look at the end result, that usually can help you figure out the steps needed to get there. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next project. And
I'm trying to find the paper that you used for the stamp, the initial one, the one that goes on the top of everything. Yes, was that in the kit?
the watercolor paper?
Yeah.
Yep, there were 2 of those in the kit. There should be 2 pieces of watercolor paper inside your envelope, I hope. If not, I'll get some to you. Okay. It's that kind of almost chipboard feeling paper. It's got a heavier weight to it.
I think I must have dropped it, that's all.
No worries, I can get some more to you. Yep, everybody should have 2 of those so that you have an extra to kind of play with or to use for another project. So our next one is one of the kits that I'll have available at the library tomorrow for our Let's Kit Together opportunity. And this is makes a sweet little favor for a wedding or a baby shower or any kind of celebration or Valentine's Day treat. So in your kit, you have some little sticker pieces, different colors with hearts. And then you also have a box template that looks like this. It's white with silver stripes. And this kit is called Love Treats, and it makes 20 boxes. And so the stamp set is lovely. It has some really sweet words. Love is sweet, enjoy a treat. Thank you for celebrating with us. Be mine, Valentine, love, and hugs and kisses. So, and you can see here the clever stamp that's shaped in the triangle to fit exactly on that envelope flap, which is really sweet. But what I thought we might do, since I gave you the water brush tonight, would be to show you a way to alter this to any colors that you like. And I'm going to go ahead and do mine with the yellows and golds tonight, like I shared on this wash one. My sample is around here somewhere, where I use sort of purples and greens. And I'm not sure where that one disappeared to, but I'm going to show you this one. So we're going to take the inks and the watercolor brush. And because this is embossed, you can just be really bold with your strokes, and because the ink will not stick to the silver stripes. So I'm going to take some of this Daffodil Delight, and I'm just going to scribble wildly over this this box. And I'm not looking for any evenness. In fact, I want there to be a variation in the colors. So it's good if there's some parts that are a little darker than other parts. And then I can take this darker pumpkin pie, and let's see if I can make that one make a little palette. Sometimes it's frustrating and too difficult to put, even though I feel like I've been working out, it's hard to push strong enough to get the ink to transfer. Let's see if I had any luck. A little bit. Okay. So now I can take some of that pumpkin pie, and here I want this to be quite wet. So I'm going to go ahead and add a drop of water so I can really stretch out that ink and make it wet. And then go ahead and begin painting here. And I can pick up some deeper color. And like I said, because this is like a watercolor resist, because those embossed silver stripes will not take the ink. The ink won't stick to it. So I can just add lots of fun color to that. Now you could also use, if you have a thick, you don't have to have a water painter, you can have another kind of paintbrush. You could also sponge or brayer this if you wanted to alter it, or of course you could keep it with that clean white and silver, beautiful, simple, elegant favor look. I'm going to take a minute just to find my green and blue one to show you the finished part. Here it is.
What's that word you used? You said brayer?
A brayer, yes. A brayer is a tool that will apply ink. It's a roller and it has a handle, and so that applies ink. You also could use a blending brush or a sponge dauber, or just a regular makeup sponge or sponge to adhere. And what's fun is because of the resist here, you can create a lot of cool shading, and you can customize this to any decor that you wanted for gifts.
I just never heard the term before.
Brayer.
Brayer is.
I'll make a note. You can remind me that you want me to show something with a brayer in the future. So here's the one that I made. I'm not going to finish this yellow one right now, but this is just to give you an idea. If you wanted to alter the box, that would be one way to do that. I'll show you the way it's designed from Stampin' Up! As a favor. What's cute is that it buckles. I guess I do need to show you how to assemble it when you're ready to put the box together. It should be pretty straightforward because the lines are already scored. So you're going to fold on all of those score lines, and we're creating the centerpiece is the bottom of the box, and then we're going to create the sides. So the two long sort of arm panels, they are designed to cross over, and they don't, at first I thought they were supposed to squeeze all the way tight together here, but they're actually angled so they don't have to be what's the word? Straight right there. There's another word, like congruent or something, but you're going to do that on both sides, which will create a little bit of a sturdy edge. And then the sides fold in and latch, and then the triangles fold in, and there's a slit here, so you can tuck that inside. So this is complete just like that. It will stay together, and it's a nicely firm construction. A York peppermint patty, my favorite, of course, can fit inside along with other treasures. It's not quite large enough for a gift card, but you could put money in there, or a check, or a love note, or of course some candy. Now the stickers that come with it are, of course, are peel and stick, and they will, create a bond. But if you'd like, you can cut around your heart. Let me show you here. Let's see. If you don't want the back to be sticky, you can just carefully cut around the circle. And then you could adhere it to your box with a dimensional. And that way the guest who receives it doesn't have to tear it to open it up. Sometimes as artists, we don't like to see at the end of the party all the favors in the garbage, right, or left on the table. We want people to take them and be able to reuse them. So in this case, I cut around the sticker so it wouldn't be sticky. And that way the recipient can open the box and reuse the box without any tearing. Okay, so reuse, recycle, right? But it is a sweet little sturdy box and fun for Valentine's. And it is one of the choices for tomorrow. Another new choice that I have is called Saying Thanks. And I just wanted to give you a sneak peek at this one. My friend Elizabeth made me a card using this kit, and it has that fun resist. So you could actually alter the color of thanks. I mean, the thanks would stay black, but the white border around it, you could paint with your water painter and make it a different color if you wanted, because that special ink it's printed with, it's shiny, will resist the water, will resist the ink. So this is a fun kit. It has 3 designs, 3 each of 3 different cards, happy heart cards, all designed with thanks in mind. And then I have some other returning favorite choices too. So there's definitely something for everyone. I'd love to have you join us. It's a $20 supply fee that includes the kit to take home, all the supplies to make the project, and then things that supplies you can use at home for other projects.
Can you tell us how many projects are in that kit?
Yes, and this one makes 20 boxes, and it includes the stamp set and the ink to take home. This new thanks one, actually the words are already pre-printed. So it's a lesser cost kit, which means I can give you this plus a bonus gift if you choose this when you come, because it doesn't have stamps and ink inside, and I want to give you that value. So I have other items that you can choose from to complement your kit if you choose this one. But this is a great kit, especially for a beginner or for someone with limited supplies at home, because you don't need to do any stamping for this one. This one has the words in the 4 different languages already printed for you, and things are die cut and ready. Here's more of those fun embossed words here, the thank you, and it's in German, French, Dutch, and English, so we can expand our cultural diversity and vocabulary as well. But I do have several of these available. They're just hot off the press, available this week, and it's exciting. Before we do our last project, I want to tease you a little bit with some papers in hopes that you can help me plan for next month. These are papers available during celebration. They're free with a qualifying order, and each is quite different. I'm going to show you 3 different ones, and then my wish is that you would let me know through a comment or chat which is your favorite, which would you like to play with next month. So this is Dainty Flowers. They're wild flowers and beautifully watercolored. And the paper looks like watercolor paper. It's going to be hard to see the texture on camera, but it's just flat paper. But the way it's painted, it looks like it's watercolor paper. There you can see a little of the nubbly texture to it. And then on the back, there's some really pretty watercolor patterns, as well as finer designs that are not floral. Okay, so that one we'll call, it has a different name, but we're going to call it Wildflowers, if that's your first choice. Okay. The next one is called On the Farm. So we can call this farm paper. And this one is a lot of fun with pigs and cows and sheep and some cool plaids and stripes. Looks like ticking or other kinds of fabric, some chicken wire and vegetables. And then each has a different scene. These papers all come in size 12 by 12. So I've cut them into 6 by 6. So the 6 the one that you get might be different from like this scene here. The one that you get would maybe have cows on it, but it would be a similar pattern with the colors. And that's a lot of fun. So that one's called farming. Okay. So we've got wildflowers, farming, and then this one is bold flowers. This is actually called favored flowers, and they're like roses. They're just gorgeous. They're very bold and with the black background, but watch when I flip it over and you see these more muted colors and geometric patterns. So what's fun is you always have the opportunity to kind of personalize your card based on which side of the paper you use. This one is called bold flowers. So in the chat or in the comments, in the next, as you have a chance to think about it, and if you're watching replay, you can go ahead. We love to know you're catching the replay. So add in the comments which of the 3 papers you'd most like to see in your kit next month. Okay. All right. So we're going to finish with our third project, which is by design a Valentine's Day card. But of course, you can customize it for a different occasion if you wish. And it looks kind of like this. You can see it's got some fun enamel hearts, stickers on there, some pretty textured ribbon. And so it has quite a bit, a variety of texture, which I enjoy in cards, to have variety of color, variety of things to touch and see. And it has this pool party envelope, which is great. So that's the kit you want to pull out for our last project tonight. And you'll notice on your pieces, the heart is blank. It's gold outlined, and then it's blank inside. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to stamp the hearts inside, but I think this also looks really beautiful and a little more elegant, a little less fussy maybe, if you don't have the stamping inside. So you could also do other watercoloring or stamping, whatever you like inside. If you don't want it to be a love card, then you can leave off the word love. There's a nice little banner here. You could put a message if you wished. And so again, you can combine these materials in the way that pleases you. Now, you also can always make your card landscape. This is a portrait card here, but you can turn your card to make it landscape depending on how you choose to complete the decoration. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead though and show you, because it's another cool trick using the water pen, and I don't want to miss out a chance to show you another trick with that. So I'm going to ink up my stamp with the what's this color? Poppy Parade, and I'm going to ink it up
using an ink spot.
Using an ink spot. That's right, Julia. And I'm going to stamp it onto the heart so that it's inside that gold frame. Okay. And the reason I wanted to do it this way to show you tonight is you notice that I didn't get a super clean impression, right? I don't know if anybody noticed, but I didn't have a pad underneath. And with the photopolymer, we don't have foam underneath here like we do with our owls. See, we have this gray foam underneath the rubber. So that already has the cushion. When we work with photopolymer, there is not any cushion. And so that's why we have a foam underneath us, like a mouse pad, or we might use a magazine, like not a hardcover book, but a magazine that's a little bit lighter. But a trick you can do using your watercolor pen, your water pen, is to bleed the colors together to paint them. And even if you get a really good impression, this is a fun trick to do, because you'll notice it's going to brighten my coloring. Okay, so here they are. It's a little fuzzy, kind of grainy there where it didn't pick up the ink fully. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure I don't have my yellow and my blue on there anymore. Okay, so I'm going to try to hold it so you can see. And this is going to brighten the colors and fill in those places where I didn't have it quite so cleanly stamped. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to add a little bit of a more natural or fluid movement to it. Can you see a difference? it's not super obvious on camera here, but let me see if I can get really close for you to
You
see.
can see it, and some of them it makes more difference than others, but it definitely.
Right, it brightens it, right? It kind of fills in those little gappy areas. And so I just think it's fun, especially if you kind of need to kind of help the stamp if you didn't use this, if it wasn't well inked, or if you didn't have a mat under there. Those are things that can cause the stamp to not be as clean, at least the image to be as cleanly stamped. So this is a way to kind of fuss and figure, clean that up. And I love how it tends to brighten things. All right, so we'll go ahead. And this card is easy to put together. We have the ribbon, the black ribbon. And let me just see, I always end up with a crafter math, we call it, the after effects of stamping and card making is you have a lot of things in your space. And I couldn't get my camera closer tonight, and I will work on those skills for next time to be able to get the little bit better framed display for you. But there, I've tied a bow with the black ribbon, and I've got this little black scallop piece I'm going to add to the side here, to the left side of my card, with just a little adhesive, a thread. Remember, dot, dot, not a lot, or a thread rather than a worm of glue. We just need a little bit, and add that to the edge. And then this I'm going to pop up with dimensionals because I want there to have that, give a little height to the project. And we'll find those. These right here. Lisa asked about the wildflower papers, and yes, they are available now. The 3 papers that I showed are a celebration gift, available with a qualifying purchase during January and February. This is our celebration brochure, and each of those items is available with a $50 purchase of other supplies from the Stampin' Up! Website and catalog. And if anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer those questions. The dainty flowers, or what we're calling wildflowers, are just spectacular. I've seen some very special projects where people fussy cut them.
Oh my.
Really, if you like to cut and find that satisfying, a lot of people find that very therapeutic. But the fun thing about this one in particular is that all you need to do is chop, and you've got the perfect card front, and just add a greeting, and the paper is doing that work for you. So if you're looking to make a number of thank you cards, or love you cards, or sympathy, or thinking of you, this really appeals to all occasions. That's an easy one. So good. We have a vote for the wildflower from Lisa. So others can let me know as you have a chance to think about it.
Yeah, Christine V also says wildflowers.
Great. Okay, very good. Well, it is lovely. And I think people are really drawn right now to those purples, the fresh freesia, the razzleberry. You'll see I popped up the love as well with dimensionals. And I have this little piece. I could add something and have it be a standout in the middle. You could stamp right onto the white inside, but you could also stamp something on the label if you like. There's also this tiny little white label, and this was designed so you could write the word you, or stamp the word you, and it would be love you. I'm just going to leave it with love right now, but I'm going to go ahead and add these little enamel hearts. One I'm going to put right on top of the one at the top that it matches, and the others I'll dance around in the triangle so that my eye will move, the recipient's eye will move around the card. 1, 2, 3. So this is a little jump start on Valentine's for you. When we meet next month, we will have time for you to still get your cards in the mail or to send out, but it's fun to be a little bit ahead of things. And I hope that that's been fun for you tonight. Julia and I want to thank you for your patience as we were getting logged in tonight. And we hope that if you have questions or comments, you'll put them in the chat section, or also on Facebook. When you watch the replay, put a note there to say you're catching on replay, or that you which paper you love the best, and that helps us make plans for each month. And I hope that you'll have fun with the water painter. Have it ready for next month. And we'll be using that again with some other mediums to play with the watercoloring.
Right, and we still have a few more kits because it was hard for people to sign up this time.
Okay.
So people can stop by the library in the next week or so and ask for me, and get one of the kits so you can watch it with the replay on YouTube or Facebook.
Fantastic. Yeah, and it's a great value with that water painter inside. So thank you to those of you who've been making the donations. That allows me to include little special treats inside the boxes each month or in the kits. And it's a great joy for me to prepare each month for you. So I especially love feedback on things you're enjoying. I have heard that people like the fun folds, that you like being a paper engineer, even though it's sometimes a little tricky explaining. I love the mathematics of card making, the science mixed with the art. So I'll continue to teach you some fun folds each month. Next month, we'll be sure to do the wildflowers. And any other requests you have, you can share them with Julia and with me, because we really have fun personalizing the class each month. Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Missy.